The Manilow Method podcast is a production by Logan Allen and me, Barry Harris. Now, let's start the show.
Hello, people of the internet. I'm Logan Allen, that is Barry Harris, and this is the Manilow Method. I'm going to preface this by saying this is not a normal episode. We cannot dissect the songs or anything that we're going to talk about, but we're going to talk about the biggest news from the Manilow camp that hasn't been heartbreaking as of recently. Today, we are talking about his brand new album, What a Time. We only know what two of these songs sound like, so we'll kind of talk about those, but we want to tell you everything we know about every single song on this album, because once you learn all of this information, like Barry and I, you're going to freak out. This album is a Fanilow's dream, ladies and gentlemen. So, Barry, tell everybody, when this was released, the track list was released, we were on the phone together. It was like 3 a.m, and I called you, and I was like, you're not going to believe this. So we got to react to this in real time with each other. Barry, tell everybody what that experience was like.
Yes, that was an absolutely amazing experience. Like we've said before on our program, there is no feeling like hearing a Barry Manilow song for the first time. And the reason why we were up at 3 o'clock in the morning East Coast time, or actually that was 3 o'clock Central Time, 4 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, because the single Sunshine was premiering on BBC Two radio in the morning, and that was the only way for us to hear it and hear the premiere. And then shortly after the premiere, the track list was released, and we were so blown away by what we saw, because we know certain things about some things that were performed live just maybe a handful of times in the 80s and never really heard much of. We recognize some of these titles, and we've got so much information. So what we wanted to do today is to take all the information that we have and put it all in one place so we can guide you through this album and just really get a sense of just how amazing I think this album is going to be.
So, right off the bat, a lot of us knew track 1 before it was officially released. The song Once Before I Go, written by Peter Allen and Dean Pitchford. Manilow live debuted this in concert in 2022. Almost 4 years ago at this point, which is crazy. But just last year, they officially released it as a single. And if you go back into our video archive, YouTube, Facebook, or whatever streaming platform, we have an episode where Barry and I actually got to be there in person for the taping of the music video at the Westgate in Las Vegas. So this song is a phenomenal start to the album. And Barry, I mean, this is like a modern Manilow classic at this point. It's hit the top 10. It's hit the charts. It's getting played on radio. Manilow has a hit single in the year 2026. Talk to us a little bit about it.
You know, what's so remarkable about Once Before I Go is that it's a reunion with Clive Davis, who called Barry Manilow one day and asked him if he had ever heard of this song, Once Before I Go. And Manilow actually knew the song already, because Peter Allen had actually played him the song when Peter Allen first wrote the song. But as Manilow said in interviews, he didn't feel mature enough to ever want to sing a song like that. But because Clive brought it up and suggested it, Manilow thought maybe now is the right time. And what's really remarkable about Once Before I Go is they first released this visualizer that shows Manilow throughout the years, all the eras that we absolutely love. And it seemed almost as if this was going to be a swan song and a goodbye to the fans. But then we kind of got a bit of a left turn when the music video came out. It had this really interesting concept that has Manilow singing and performing the song and seeing this imaginary family. And really, it gives you the sense that Manilow, the twist he put on this song is that he's not saying goodbye to us, the fans. He is saying goodbye to the life that he could have lived if he chose not to pursue a performing career and just had a normal life. And for him, I think that ship sailed a long time ago, and thinking about it that way, it makes the song even more profound. It's so amazing. And he said to us, he remarked when he was taping the video, he says, my hands are shaking. When I was taping the day before, my hands were shaking. It takes me a lot to get into the song, is what he told us. So we can absolutely get a sense that this song is very deep for him, and we feel it too. So this is such a great way to start off the album. It's really amazing.
So not only was I surprised and overcome with happiness and excitement when they announced that Once Before I Go was getting released, in the corner of that post of the Once Before I Go, which, by the way, I can do this for once. Here's the Once Before I Go vinyl single. It's this right here that I'm talking about, this little thing in the corner that says, from the forthcoming album, What a Time. And I saw that, and I was like, okay, it's got a name, and they're telling us. That means like we're serious about this now. So, track 2 on the new album is the title track. It's called What a Time. And right away, classic Manilow fans rejoice. We have a John Bettis lyric on this song. And according to the copyright database, which you're going to hear us talk about a lot on here, it's public information. You can look this up for yourself. According to the copyright database, this song, written by Barry Manilow and John Bettis, was written in the Here Comes the Night era. We're talking 1982. This song is over 40 years old. And something even more interesting, in 1987, I do believe, Manilow played at an awards type show honoring Bette Midler. And Manilow sings a song where what appears to be the chorus or the hook of the song revolves around the phrase, "What a time." So now that we know that this song was already written at that point, I would love to speculate and put on the tinfoil hat, Barry, and say that maybe this song has already been played live at least once. Barry, what are we expecting from this title track?
Yeah, that's what we don't know, and what we're here to outline is this song. Like we said, we know for a fact that this is definitely a song that comes from the vault. What we don't know is, are we going to hear a recording that comes from that era, or is this a brand new recording? Because an example of the album scores, while you have a lot of contemporary recordings of the songs, there are some instances, specifically Who Needs a Dream, where they went back to the original Copacabana soundtrack from 1985 and used that recording. So we don't know if that's going to be the case here, or if this is going to be a brand new recording. So we'll have to find out when we hear it.
So track 3 is the most, as of the time of this recording, the most recent single from the album. It's a song called Sunshine, written by Barry Manilow and Gary Barlow. All of our UK fans are probably very familiar with the name Gary Barlow. And a few years ago, Gary Barlow actually put out his own version of this song called You Make the Sun Shine, and Manilow played piano on it. But now we get Manilow's own take on it. This song is upbeat, it's breezy, and it has a nice swing to it, and I'd say it's very reminiscent of songs like Daybreak. Just very happy-go-lucky, you can't help but smile listening to it, and I think it's a great choice for a single. Barry, what are your thoughts on this new track?
What a wonderful single this is for Manilow. I cannot get this song out of my head. I have actually played this song repeatedly since it officially came out. Right after that BBC 2 radio premiere, it was available right away, and you could pre-order the album What a Time. And it's so catchy, and who would have thought that Gary Barlow and Barry Manilow would make such an amazing team together? The connection, to explain and elaborate who Gary Barlow is, for those who don't know who he is, he was and still is a member of the group Take That, which was a boy band from the 1990s. Robbie Williams was another familiar singer in that band that many people are familiar with, and they had a hit single covering Could It Be Magic. They based their version on the Donna Summer disco version. So there was already this synergy between Gary Barlow and Barry Manilow going back 30 years, and who would have thought that it would culminate in them pairing up together and writing a big single for Barry Manilow. I hope this one goes up the charts. So if any of you know how to get to a request line in your local radio stations, be sure to call it and ask them to play Sunshine. But again, it's a great production. It's a really rangy song, and that's one of the hallmarks of Barry Manilow's music. It starts very low, it ends very high, and I think you're going to be very pleased by listening to this if you have not already.
So, now we get to track 4, which is where things get very interesting. For those of you who have been keeping up with the Barry Manilow lore over the years, I say that as Barry and I are both under 40. If you've been keeping up with the Barry Manilow lore over the years, you may know that in the early 90s, he released a boxed set, which had 70-plus songs on it, demos and outtakes and live tracks and studio tracks and all sorts of stories, and it was just a mind-blowing piece of work. And one of the songs that was tacked on to the end of the box set is a previously unreleased song called Another Life. And it's a very awesome song, and he actually did it on his Greatest Hits tour in the early 90s. But when we first looked at this track list, we see track 4 is called Another Life 2026. And that was the first thing that made me turn to Barry and go, holy crap, what is this album going to be? And I hadn't even scrolled further down to see what else was on it. This was the first mind-blowing thing on this album. So, Barry, we are getting one of the first times we're getting another take on a previously released Manilow song on a new album. Wrap our heads around this, Barry.
Yeah, so sometimes that happens in recent albums where Barry Manilow will take a song that he previously recorded, reimagine, and re-record it and release it on the new album. That happened on his most recent original album, 15 Minutes. He re-recorded the song She's a Star from the Trying to Get the Feelin' album, except he changed the gender to He's a Star and put it on the 15 Minutes album. And so that seems to be the case here. It was a great single when it came out, and it's kind of disappointing that at the time it didn't get its due respect, and I think maybe that's what this is. It was a great song, and I think it still sounds fresh when you listen to the box set version, so I can imagine that he has done something contemporary with it. And this is actually a throwback, because we talk about on our program, for those of you who've watched our previous episodes, for anything before 1984 that was recorded on Arista Records, Clive Davis had 2 songs that he would be allowed to place on the album. Barry Manilow had a contractual obligation to do 2 Clive songs. Now, I'm just going to speculate that Another Life is another Clive Davis pick. And if that's true, then that means What a Time is going to feature 2 Clive Davis picks to throw back to what it used to be, the status quo when Clive and Barry worked together. Andy Hill is one of the songwriters of Another Life. So a lot of people might recognize the name Andy Hill because that is a songwriter who has written another song that Barry Manilow recorded, and that was Keep Each Other Warm on the Purple album, the self-titled Barry Manilow album from 1989. So that's quite interesting to add on to the history of this particular song, Another Life. So I can't wait to hear Manilow's new, fresh take on this.
So now we get to one of the more recently written tracks from this album. Track 5 is Touched by an Angel, lyrics by Bruce Sussman. You'll hear this name all over our show and all over the Manilow discography, famously one of the writers of the song Copacabana. In a late 2010s interview, Manilow actually name-dropped this song, saying that he was working on it for the next original album that he was going to do. But until this point, we had no confirmation that it was ever going to be released. But now we know it is, and this song was actually copyrighted in 2007, appealing to my heart, the Music and Passion era, live at the Hilton in the mid-2000s. This song was registered during that era. So we're touching on so many different periods of Manilow's performing career. Like, this album really is going to span all of the years that we've gotten from Manilow in the public eye. Barry, what do you think Touched by an Angel is going to be like?
So, I was listening to that interview when Barry Manilow suddenly name-dropped this new song, Touched by an Angel. And I forget exactly what question was asked that prompted him to start talking about it, but they were talking about the way songs were made, I believe, and I think he was perhaps recalling how, they don't make beautiful records anymore. And then he started to, as I seem to recall, he started describing this new song, Touched by an Angel, describing it as very lush and very beautiful. So this seems like this is possibly going to be a showstopper of a song. I'm not sure yet, but I think when you get Bruce Sussman writing a lyric, Bruce is a Broadway writer, and we've talked about this before on the program, that Bruce is not somebody who likes to write pop music, although he ironically wrote the Copacabana lyric. He was one of the writers on that, as you mentioned, Logan. So I can't imagine this not being a huge song that's really going to make us feel something. So again, we're just speculating here. We only got these few little tea leaves that we received from Manilow himself a couple of years ago. And so as soon as I saw that Touched by an Angel is going to be on the record, I got very, very excited.
Ladies and gentlemen, sound the fanfare, alert the media, get the government involved. I don't care what you do, but this next song, I cannot even put into words my excitement that this is going to be on this album. Track 6 is called The Chosen One, and this song was registered in the year 2000. Ladies and gentlemen, The Chosen One is an outtake from the writing sessions for Here at the Mayflower. If we can, insert an applause effect or something, because come on, that is insane. We're going to get an outtake from what Barry and I both consider to be the best Barry Manilow original record of all time. I am beyond excited to hear what this sounds like. And this begs the question once again, Barry, are we going to get recordings from what they did in the year 2000 when they wrote this song, or are we going to get, like we're thinking Another Life is going to be, a new modern take on this song from another era?
Yeah, so when we look at the history, we can go back to the This Is My Town album. There's a song on that particular album which came out in 2017 called On the Roof. And when you look at the copyright registration for On the Roof, it was registered in 2001 and has the subtitle From Here at the Mayflower. Ooh. So we can say for certain that On the Roof was written for Here at the Mayflower. And as I listened closely, having learned this piece of information, I noticed that the song On the Roof sounded a lot different from the other songs on the record. So we're going to have a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory here that what you hear on the This Is My Town record is what it would have sounded like if it was on Here at the Mayflower. And I've since added that song into my Here at the Mayflower playlist, and On the Roof just works perfectly in with all those other songs. So using that information that I just said there, I'm speculating that maybe The Chosen One might be an actual Here at the Mayflower outtake, and we may hear what it would have sounded like. Again, we only know that it was registered in the year 2000. So that doesn't say that it's definitely Here at the Mayflower, but we're drawing that conclusion because of that fact. And I'm very, very excited for what this could be.
Yes. So this next song here, track 7, it's called One More Chance. This is another Bruce Sussman lyric. You're going to hear us mention this a lot on our show. We may have mentioned it in some episodes in the past. We have some episodes recorded already that we haven't aired yet, so maybe that's what I'm thinking of. But there is this gap in the career of Barry Manilow from 1986, the beginning of 86, to the end of 1987. Over a year and a half gap where he wasn't touring, he wasn't doing concerts, he didn't have any new material he was promoting. He was just kind of away. He was away from his desk at the time. And Bruce Sussman, in the boxed set booklet, all those songs that they released in the 90s, he said that he calls that the gray period. And Manilow agrees with that, saying they were trying out so many different styles and so many different ideas that he had no idea what he wanted his next album to be like. So this song here, One More Chance, written by Bruce Sussman, was written in 1985, the beginning of the Gray Period. And this is not the only Gray Period song that we get on this album. So I'm very interested to see what this song and the other ones we're going to talk about in a minute are like, because they come from an era that we know little to nothing about. Barry?
Yes, so one of the things that we do is that with this publicly accessible information, we try to understand what can we say for sure and what is still unclear. Now, we always mention the year they were registered. That means that's the latest year that that song could have possibly been written. Now, it is possible that a song that's registered could have been written in an earlier year. We don't know, but for right now, we're just speculating that this could be a song that was written during that Gray Period, or could have been written earlier than that. So, all that is to say that we really don't know anything about this song except that it has existed for a long time. So again, it's another track from the vault.
And speaking of the vault, I don't know if you can get more vault than this song right here. Track 8 is called Nobody Knows My Song. Lyrics by Enoch Anderson, famously writing some of the great 70s songs. I Want to Be Somebody's Baby and Sandra automatically come to mind when I hear the name Enoch Anderson. But this song is an interesting type of vault track, because not only is it from the vault that's never been released before, but Manilow actually tried it out on a very small handful of audiences in 1996. In fact, Manilow TV, if you don't know what that is, it's the subscription service, $10 a month. You can watch Manilow concerts from over the years. We have seen a live performance of this song, Nobody Knows My Song, from 1996 in England. So you lucky England people, you got to hear this song at some point. But Barry, talk about how this song has actually shown up before in more recent times.
Yes, so Clapton is a DJ. Manilow was speaking on an interview, and he said that he was a big fan of Clapton, and this comment apparently got back to Clapton and decided to reach out to ask if they could possibly collaborate on something. And he had this song, Nobody Knows My Song, ready to go and to present. But what's interesting is that this was released a couple of years ago. It was released as a collaboration between Clapton and Barry Manilow, and it was simply titled Nobody. So the fact that we're getting it again, but we're getting it with the full title, suggests that we are going to hear a different version of the song. And again, what we're speculating, or what we don't know, and we will find out in due time, is whether we're going to hear a contemporary recording of the song, or will we hear a vault track, something that was recorded decades ago, and possibly hear what the creative vision was for this song at the time that it was originally conceived. So we don't know. The jury's still out. We'll find out when we get the record.
And then once again here at track 9, we have another suspected Gray Period song. This is a Lisa Sinette lyric, which we've actually found multiple Lisa Sinette lyrics in the copyright database from the Gray Period. This song is called When Somebody Says Goodbye. And what's very special about this is not only are we getting another vault track, we're getting it as a duet between Manilow himself and the ever famous in this community, Muffy Hendrix. Muffy Hendrix sings with him live to this day. She first joined him on the 1978 Even Now tour, and she's been with him on and off this entire time. So this is crazy that we are getting a record with Muffy on it that is from years ago. So I would like to speculate now that this is probably going to be a new recording of an old song. I'm getting that vibe about this, considering the fact that Muffy is a name that is very prominent still with him. I think this is probably going to be a new recording. Barry, what are your theories on this tune?
Yes, it's quite probable that we could get a contemporary recording, but it's also possible we could get a vault recording, because Muffy was working with Barry Manilow in the 1980s, so they could have sang a demo together we don't know. And again, we are going to find out when we listen to this album, and we will do our best to try to see if there's credits available. The types of musicians and producers involved might help give us some clues as to what year the song was actually recorded in. So we're definitely can't wait to listen to this and analyze what we hear, and we'll make some guesses and speculation if we don't have all the information as to when this recording originated. But like you said, Logan, we have definitively concluded that this came from the 1980s.
So I do think it's important to mention this is not going to be the only episode that we do talking about this. What we wanted to do with this episode is give you explanations of why this is so mind-blowingly crazy to see this track list in 2026. When the album comes out later this year, that means the second half of this year we're going to put out an episode after we've had time to digest the album for a little bit. We're going to put out an episode where we actually talked about the content of the songs just like we usually do, but considering this is the first time that Barry Manilow has released an album in our show's existence, we were kind of scrambling for a little bit because we don't know how to handle this. This is like uncharted territory. So we're going to keep moving here with one of the newest songs on this album. Track 10 is Don't Trouble the Water, another Enoch Anderson lyric we know from the copyright database. This song was written during the pandemic. It was registered during the pandemic. So we are very likely going to hear one of the most modern Barry Manilow recordings on this song. Barry, I'm excited for this one.
Yes, this is really amazing. And one thing to note about this album is that this is the first time we have heard Manilow's recorded voice in a very long time. So this is going to be a brand new era. Again, we don't have any context for it, so we don't know what this is going to be like, but I can imagine it's really interesting. And yeah, so we can say for sure that Manilow spent 2020 when there was no concerts. He got to working on songs with his longtime collaborators, and so this is the first one we get to hear.
So, Barry, Manilow Method fan community, I would love us all to just take a second and appreciate the words that are about to come out of my mouth. Track 11 is called Look at Me Now. I'm going to let that just hang there for a second because that is insane. That is crazy. And for those of you who are wondering why I am beside myself right now, is because this song was played live. We know of, off the top of my head, we know of 3 times that this song got played live. In 1984 and 1985 on the Paradise Tour. And Manilow introduced this song to the public actually one other time besides that. In the late 2000s on his website, he actually had a vault where he would post a song, I believe, was it like bi-monthly, Barry? Yeah, where he would post a song from the vault, whether it be an old studio demo or a live recording of a song that was never released. And the first song that he chose to put out from the vault was a live recording of Look at Me Now from 1985. And may I just say, I don't think I've gotten adrenaline like I did when I saw that on the track list in a very long time. I flipped out. And Barry, tell us who wrote this song.
Yeah, so this was once again written by Barry Manilow, John Bettis, with another person that we saw in the copyright registration, Richard Page. Now, Richard Page is a name that we've mentioned on our program because Richard Page was a session vocalist on many of Barry Manilow's album in the 1980s. He sang the background vocals, and Richard Page then went on to become the frontman for the band Mr. Mister. And up until now, we've never heard of any of Richard Page's songwriting collaborations with Barry Manilow. Of course, like you mentioned, Logan, we did get to finally hear it publicly in the 2000s. I transcribed the song because it was just so beautiful. I would call Look at Me Now as one of my top 10 all-time Manilow songs, I think. And
Wow.
that's saying a lot for a song that was never officially released. And considering everything that came after the 80s, you had the box set, and then you had these remastered CDs with bonus tracks, and none of those projects did Look at Me Now ever make it out. But finally, it is going to see a proper release on this album, What a Time, and it is going to feature Dave Koz on saxophone. So I think we're going to get a different recording of it. We're not going to see something that might have been recorded in the 80s if it was. I think we're going to get something maybe a little more contemporary, but the fact that Dave Koz is attached to this really makes for some exciting possibilities.
I am personally surprised by the amount of times John Bettis's name shows up on this new album. Because John Bettis, for those of you who don't know, wrote some classic Manilow songs. He wrote the lyric to Life Will Go On from the 1980 Barry album. He wrote Fools Get Lucky from the 1981 If I Should Love Again album. And as I'm saying this, I'm just now realizing those are both songs that I've chosen as my solo covers on this channel. So I like to think, since I like those songs so much, these might be my favorites, including track number 12, which is a song called Nobody Told Me, just like What a Time, track 2, the title track. This also comes from the Here Comes the Night era. So once again, with how many times John Bettis's name shows up on this album, I am really interested to see if we get vault recordings that have been kind of modernized with the production, or if we get full modern remakes and re-singing and replaying and everything of these songs. Are we going to get just something grabbed from the vault that they kind of shined up, or are we going to get something that was done in recent years from scratch? Barry, John Bettis is going to be like our new best friend after this album. What do you think of his name showing up so much?
You know, it's really interesting because in terms of the songs that were released in the 1980s, there was only a handful of collaborations with John Bettis. The aforementioned Fools Get Lucky and Don't Fall in Love with Me on all of the If I Should Love Again. He wrote the title track to Here Comes the Night and Heart of Steel on Here Comes the Night. And what we learned because of this album's existence was that Barry Manilow and John Bettis did way more work than we ever realized. And apparently a lot of it was quality work that's worthy of release. So it's great that we get to celebrate that amazing collaboration. And I also just remembered Jenny, I Need Your Love, You're My Only Girl from the Greatest Hits Volume 2, released in 1989. That was another John Bettis, Barry Manilow collaboration, which they added Michael Masser as a third writer on that project. So John Bettis really created some great music with Barry Manilow, and before that he was also writing lyrics for the Carpenters hits. So John Bettis, I mean it's great to see him make some exciting contributions, even though they are being taken from the vault.
And speaking of exciting contributions, we've come to the final track of the regular release of the new album, What a Time. It's a lyric by the one and only Adrian Anderson, a name that shows up so much on our show that everything about this album is like a dream come true if you're a massive Manilow fan like Barry and I are. So to end the album with an Adrian Anderson lyric after we've gotten John Bettis lyrics, Nick Anderson lyrics, Bruce Sussman lyrics, we're getting it from everybody, and we get to finish off on an Adrian Anderson track. This is also from the Lockdown. This is a pandemic registered song. Again, maybe registered before then, or maybe written before them, sorry, but it was registered during the pandemic. So this is, once again, just like Don't Trouble the Water, this is one of the more modern written songs. And I gotta say, Barry, I'm gonna turn this over to you, because after all this info, like, I am speechless that we are getting all of this awesomeness in this year. In just 2 short months, all of this is going to be ours. Barry, what are your feelings on this? This is crazy.
Yeah, so coming of age, the only thing we have is we know when it was written, we know who wrote it, and we know the title, and that is all we know about this. But I suspect, especially if it's a closing track, this has got to be something really special, really amazing. I can only just wrap my mind around what could the style of this be? What's the tempo of the song? We have nothing. We have absolutely no tea leaves on this one. So this is an exciting mystery. And so we just want to put the word out. Get ready. I think this is going to be amazing. Buckle up.
So I think it's very interesting that even now, his greatest selling studio album of all time had only one Adrian Anderson track on the whole regular release of it, and it was the final track. It was Sunrise. So I'm not gonna jinx anything here, but I'm just saying Manilow's best-selling album only had one Adrian Anderson lyric on it, and it was the last song. We're just going to put that into existence. So now there are 3 bonus tracks that you can purchase if you get different copies or variants of this new album. And we're going to briefly discuss these right here. The first one is if you buy the regular CD of What a Time, you're going to get a bonus track called Reunited. And this is a duet with the fantastic Melanie Taylor, yet another name that has been on stage with Manilow for multiple decades at this point. So this is crazy that not only are we getting collaborations with lyricists that have been around for a long time with Manilow, we're also getting duets with multiple people that have been around in the Manilow camp for years. So, Barry, tell our audience where we think this song comes from.
Yes, so back when Barry Manilow was doing his Greatest Songs of the Decade series, he did the greatest songs of the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. Every time one of those albums would go into production, he would ask people for suggestions on what songs he should do. And when he was doing a press tour for the Greatest Songs of the 60s, he mentioned surveying his friends, and many of the fans responded by saying, well, maybe you should ask us what songs Manilow should sing. And they did. So right when they started to put the Greatest Songs of the 70s into production, they surveyed all of the members of the fan club, and they sent them a list of dozens and dozens of songs. I know this because I was one of the fans who received that survey, and I got to pick my top 10 picks of songs that I wanted to hear Manilow sing from that list. What is unique about that list is one of the suggestions was the song Reunited, and they specifically said that if he did it, it would be a duet with Bette Midler. So there's 2 ways to possibly read that. One is that maybe that was a joke, or 2, maybe that was a serious idea that they thought that they could have Bette Midler sing a song with him. And so the fact that Melanie Taylor and Barry Manilow are singing a duet together, that leads me to draw an inference that maybe this could have its roots in a demo from the mid-2000s to demonstrate an idea of what it could sound like if Bette Midler and Barry Manilow sang the song Reunited together. And that's not a far stretch, because a lot of people may not know about Melanie Taylor. She is one of the longest tenured harlettes in Bette Midler's supporting vocalist group that has been around for many decades. There's been many notable people who've been harlettes like Melissa Manchester, but Melanie Taylor stands above a lot of them in terms of her tenure there. So that's not a far-fetched idea. So I think we might be hearing something that's coming from the Greatest Songs of the 70s sessions.
So then, if you buy the CD from Amazon, you get a bonus track called Cry for Coney Island. This is interesting. There's another Manilow track called Coney Island from the 2017 album This Is My Town, Songs of New York. But this song is called Cry for Coney Island, and we know that according to the copyright database, it was registered in 1991. It was registered in a whole slew of songs, so we have no idea when it was actually written, but we know it was at least written by 1991, so this song is over 30 years old at this point. Barry, again, we don't have much to go off of here. I'm just so intrigued. I think if we could sum up this episode into one word, it is that we are intrigued.
Yes, very much intrigued. And again, so much we don't know, and so much that will be answered when we finally hear the recordings.
So there's one more track we're going to do here, and we're going to wrap this up because good night. This is long for a short episode. If you buy any vinyl of this new album, What a Time, you're going to get a bonus track called Party to the Top. This is another Adrian Anderson lyric. And I have to say, Barry, tinfoil hat is back on. When they reissued Even Now, Sunrise was the only Adrian track on the album, but one of the bonus tracks was an Adrian Anderson lyric. So I'm just saying there's a lot of parallels here between this new album and his best-selling studio album of all time. So we're just going to let that mojo hang in the air for a bit. Barry, tell us what we know about this final track.
Yeah, the only thing we know about it is that it was apparently written, at least we can say it was definitely registered during the lockdown times of 2020. It's going to be amazing to hear a fresh, brand new artistic perspective from Barry Manilow in this day and age. I am particularly excited for this track.
And the fact that both Adrian lyrics on this album come from the lockdown, I think that's very interesting. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been fun. It's fun being back on your screens. It's fun being back in your headphones and your earbuds on your phones. And I just want to say thank you to all of you who are tuning into this. Ever since we kind of took a little bit of a break about a month and a half ago at this point, we have seen a huge increase in our numbers, our views, our follower counts, our likes. It is kind of crazy that we've kind of been MIA for a little bit, but people are still latching onto this. So if you are new, we welcome you to the Manilow Method family, and we can't wait to come back and talk about more Barry Manilow music with you. Barry, give everybody our love.
Yes, you know, it was amazing when we started this program. We had about a dozen people watching, then that turned into dozens, and then by the end of the first season we had maybe 100 or 200 people. Then we started off season 2 and we had about maybe hundreds in our viewership, and then we took a break, and during that break, wow, things exploded, and now we are actually closing in on 500,000 views on Facebook, and that is absolutely amazing and mind-blowing. It really is heartening to know that there are so many of you out there who really love this deep analysis of Barry Manilow music, because we are all about total immersion. When we started, we knew this was a niche program, but you really have shown that there is so much demand and so much love for the music of Barry Manilow, and we are so privileged to share this experience with you. All of your comments, all of your letters to us have meant a great ton to us. And we have loved the interactions with you because we learn a lot from you. You have shared your memories with us, and some of this has helped inform our research, and it will shape the way that we talk about some records in the future. So thank you for that. Please keep this engagement going, and please keep writing to us and sharing your thoughts on our programs and sharing some special treasured memories that you really would like to share with us, because we weren't there for the 70s, the 80s, and I didn't see the early part of the 90s. So everything you've been sharing with us has enriched us greatly. We have loved taking this journey with you, and we can't wait to continue.
One of my favorite things about doing this show is not only getting to interact with everyone, but it's also seeing all of you interact with each other. Seeing the conversations that form in our comment section is just, it's so much fun to see people sharing ideas and their experiences. I saw this show in the 80s. Well, I saw him do this song in the 90s. And it's so much fun for us to be the catalyst of this awesome fan community that is the fans of Barry Manilow, and we love talking about the Manilow Method, and we love getting to share our knowledge with you, and we thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Now, there are a number of different ways that you can get in contact with us. We have an email address. That's the manilowmethod@gmail.com. You can send us a message on our social media. You can write to us in the comments. We love to hear from you all. And also, like Barry said, your memories of your concerts that you've seen have helped our research. You can find somewhere on our pages, we have a link to a Google form that you can fill out and tell us what you've seen live over the years, because we have this, take my word for it, this giant spreadsheet of all the years of concerts, and we love filling in whatever gaps we can with whatever you want to share with us. So, I mean, if you have kept track of what you've heard over the years, please tell us what you've heard. We're so interested in what has been done on all the shows and all the tours. I'm rambling at this point. So once again, I am Logan Allen. That is Barry Harris. We're the Manilow Method. Be looking for a couple more videos from us soon as we start to make the transition into giving you some more regular content. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to give anything away, Barry. But once again, in 2 months' time, What a Time, the new album by Barry Manilow, is going to be ours to enjoy. So we hope you enjoyed our deep dive into our conspiracies of what we think the new album is going to be. We'll see you in 2 months for that new album, and we'll see you very soon for the next episode of the Manilow Method. We'll see you soon, everybody.